guys, we got some revenge today. People who got revenge on their, well, shitty boss. That's all there is to it. And apparently I'm feeling very blue today because I did not plan this. I really didn't. You probably think I did, but I didn't. All aboard the hydration station. Grab your, I'm gonna suggest water because hydration is good for you, but whatever is in your cup is not my business. Cheers. Had one that liked to steal the snacks from my lunch. Your boss stole your lunch? I'm like, wait a second, what video am I doing? I left myself a special brownie in the fridge and he ate it. At that point, a fresh email account and anonymous suggestion of a targeted drug test will cause a few phone calls and a resignation by end of the week. All because he stole the snacks out of your lunch? Listen, I do not agree with stealing snacks from anybody's lunch, okay? Because snacks are the best part of the lunch. Let's be so for real. You shouldn't steal from anybody. That's a whole other level though. You're technically drugging somebody without their consent and then getting them busted for it. That's wild. She was a psychopathic narcissist. I'm sure that I've probably been called that before. I knew she was plotting to leave her husband because I found it on a numbered to-do list on top of her desk. Number 1, break up with husband. I was floored that she would leave it where her husband could see. It was a home office in one large room. I took a photo. She proceeded to harass and gaslight her husband, who took off one night and slept in a parking lot. When he returned the next day, she said, "You left me, so it's over." After she royally screwed me over for the umpteenth time, I quit. A few weeks later, I sent the photo to her husband, copied her, and wrote, "For your records," in the subject line. Then I reported her to the IRS. Some of y'all are savage. I was not expecting this level of petty revenge in today's video. Some of these I'm like, you know, I say I would do that, but I don't know if I would actually have the guts to do that. Took the taxi home after being wrongfully dismissed. Tipped the taxi driver $250 on company expense. You must have made that taxi driver's day. He's like, yo man, I'm sorry that your day is crap, but thank you for making mine. Had a boss that was terrible to me. Him and his wife owned a restaurant together, and one day when he was yelling at me while I was getting the bar ready, I saw him put in his password on his phone. You saw or you were looking? It was space period space.
An enigma.
We all know something was going on with him and another employee. Months later, he wouldn't give me 3 days off because my niece died. Oh my God. I would be taking those days off anyway. So I walked out. Okay, there we are. Bought a $30 burner phone and texted his wife his password. They got divorced, she kept the steakhouse, and he's had 2 failed attempts at opening any establishment. I make more than him now, and he lives in the crappy apartments down the road from me. That is honestly like a movie plot, or at least one big epic scene right there. Yep, don't do crappy things to people. And they probably won't do crappy things to you. That's not always the case though. There's a lot of good people that get totally shit on. Let's be real. I have an itch. Wanna know what's itchy? My freaking incision. It's so itchy, you guys. It's probably the worst part of this incision healing is that it's so itchy. The milk I've been injecting into his chair with a hypodermic needle should be getting real rancid right now. Ew. So his chair is gonna start to smell like rotten dairy. It's gonna grow mold. Ooh, and he'll never know why. Because you're never gonna be like, oh, maybe someone put milk in a hypodermic needle and shot it into my chair. I would never guess that in a million years. How you came up with that idea is a little bit disturbing, but I walked out during a meeting with her telling her I'd better scent out a brick wall. I don't understand that. I then wrote a rather large email detailing my grievances, failings, etc., and sent it to pretty much everybody in the company, which also outlined my resignation. Apparently, she hadn't seen it because she told my colleagues I was sacked the next day. Ooh. Thankfully, they all read my email and realized what a liar she was. I had lined myself up to start retraining anyway, but all this went down in April. I hadn't planned to leave until September. I decided to pursue a constructive dismissal case against her, which resulted in full pay for a number of months and company benefits, then the company asking me to come back. The audacity. She had been reshuffled, retrained, and now in a happy place with a really happy job. Don't know why I stuck it out so long in a place that gave me depression and anxiety at the thought of going in. Y'all, raise your hand if you've ever been there. I've been there at a few jobs actually that I literally cried when I had a shift. I had so much anxiety going into some of those jobs, and so like I was down because it just brought so much misery to my life. And you feel like you're stuck because it's your livelihood and we all need money to literally live. So you feel like your hands are tied a lot of the times, but they're not. They're really not. It is brighter on the other side. You just gotta get there, and that's not easy. So I'm not gonna pretend it is. When I left, he promised to take half what I was making and spread it among the team as raises to cover the extra work. He was trying to stop the exodus as I was the third person to leave in a short time. Always red flag when there's a quick turnover, you know? So when I left, I handed my pay stub minus social security info to the team and said, I think I have a burp. That's not what he said. It went away. Where am I? This is what I make. He tried to lie. They also realized they were being underpaid by a good chunk. Oh, he told me that was a breach of confidential information and that they could sue me. I told them to sue me then. Never heard from that company again, except for tax documents. For those unfamiliar, in the US, you are legally allowed to disclose your own pay. Oh, and it's illegal for your employer to tell you that you can't. This is news to me. I'm assuming if he did try that, HR or the lawyers quickly corrected him before they had to hand me a settlement. We've had this in other conversations and videos, you guys, with people getting in trouble for talking about what they make. I'm over here in Canada, and I know that in some places I've worked, it was written in our contract that you cannot discuss what you make with other employees. But I'm curious what your experience with that is and where you are located. Worked at a stupid fake French cafe, and the manager was an idiot who made a point of giving me the shittiest jobs just to show he was in charge. One day he pulled me off the floor where I earned tips as a server and made me polish silver for hours. He kept returning and throwing every single piece back at me, telling me to do it over. He kept saying, missed a spot. So I walked out and I kept the apron. I kept the beautiful black apron with the embroidered logo and still wear it. I cook today. Also invoiced the owner for my outstanding pay and informed him his manager was not up for the job. Owner begged me to reconsider, but I told him no. I love that your revenge was like, I stole my apron. And it was a nice apron. Who doesn't like a good apron? Do people actually wear aprons? I feel like that's only like actual chefs. I have a really cute apron. One of my students bought it for me. I could cry. Before I left the daycare up here in Toronto to go into film like full time, one of my students bought me an apron covered in pineapples because I love pineapples. And I have it in my drawer, and I look at it every day and I'm like, I never cook on it because I don't want to get stains on it. Anyways, I taped a piece of fish to the back of his desk, which was up against a wall. I have a lot of questions about the fish. Is that, well, it's got to be a dead fish. We're not trying to torture the fish, right? I heard later on that it wasn't found for at least a month. F you, Darren. A month? How did it take you that long to find that? I can't stand, if you're new here and you haven't heard me tell this, me and seafood, we're not friends, okay? Can't. Not a bite. Not a bite of seafood. What? I've tried it, yes, I've tried it in the past. There's a lot I haven't tried and I won't. The smell alone, if I smell like fish being cooked, I physically gag. I gag. I've had to leave restaurants because of the smell. I don't know why. It's great for you. I've heard salmon's delicious. I can't do it. I can't do it. This, I would find it within an hour, okay? I would be all up in there. I'd be able to tell right there it is, because that smell, it does something to me. And not in a good way. But I reported him to the work inspection. He was employing more trainee than the legislation allows for a company this size and was making them work like full paid workers. With basically no formation at all, he got controlled and fined a big amount of money, had to give money to a previous trainee that had worked for him, etc. His company closed for bankruptcy after that. Sweet justice. Yep. You know, ooh, I can't say that. Never mind. I can't. It's not my story to tell. And it's too fresh. It's in the middle. So maybe like in the future, once it's settled, I'll tell. My boss's boss hated me. He drove out my previous boss that was one of the best managers I ever worked for. He demoted me, and then when the company laid off everyone else who knew my product, I insisted he restore me to my previous status or I'd quit. He did, and he wasn't happy about it. Eventually, he demoted me again and I found another job. During my exit interview with HR, I spoke at length about how he effed up the department and fired many excellent people who were now working for the competition. A few months later, he was escorted to the door and told never to return. Apparently, the company took a good long look at him and found he'd been holding his meetings with his subordinate managers and in a local bar and would sometimes never return to the office. I don't know whether my discussions with HR had anything to do with their review of his performance, but I would like to think so. Honestly, probably. It probably raised a little red flag and maybe other things happened and they're like, guys, I think we need to look a little deeper into this. You never know. You should always speak up. If you feel in your heart of hearts something ain't right, you should always speak up about it. It doesn't matter how much power someone has. Sometimes it is worth losing the job. Applied for a full-time job at a daycare. I used to work at one. Guys, I'm not gonna lie. I've thought about going back because I do be missing those kids sometimes. I don't want my own, but I be missing someone else's. Interviews was on Friday and the director said she would text me over the weekend to tell me my hours for next week. Yay, I got the job. Monday rolls around and no text or email from her, so I'm just sitting in my PJs at home thinking I'm out of work. At 10 a.m., a random number calls me and she asks me to come in for 11. I let it slide, thinking she just lost track of time or whatever. By the end of the day, I asked for my schedule and she said she'll contact me tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. The next day is the same thing, except this time she calls at 11 a.m. asking to come in for 11:15. I waited 2 hours for her call. Now I have no car and live 15 minutes away. On top of this, the shifts were only 4-ish hours long, so the job isn't even full time. I tell her I need a schedule by the end of the day. Didn't get one. The next day she calls me at a random time, but too late. I'm busy at an interview with a different job. I tell her I'll stop in to get my check by the end of the week because she can't respect my time and lied on the ad about being full-time. Also, I am not getting paid to be on call. I was just about to ask, is this like a substitute teacher on-call position? Because that is a different story and that usually, it's crap. It's crap, I've done it. But no. The ad was for full-time. You went in for an interview that was discussed as full-time. I'm sorry that didn't work out for you. I bought the .com version of the domain name for their business and made him buy it off me for $1,000. I think it made him like me more, ironically. That is so petty. Buying the .com version of like the business website and then dangling and being like, you want it? You owe me $1,000. I'll sell it to you for $1,000. You should have made a higher price. Depending on how crappy they were to you, you could have made more money, I think. I think you lowballed this one, I'm not gonna lie. Worked in China in a language training center, left the country without informing anyone at work. Once I was out of China, I posted all the info I had about the benefits foreign workers were supposed to have, but never had. Tax reimbursement, pension savings, etc. And how HR and finance appropriated them in regional and local WeChat groups, both in English and Chinese. All posted addresses of local government offices where foreign workers could inquire about the aforementioned benefits or complain about lack thereof. Oh my God. Well, you timed it right with leaving the country. You're like, I'm out of here, peace. But before I go, I used to leave litter beside her car. Like you would just pour a bunch of like cat litter. So stray cats, do stray cats go and shit in there? Is that what happens? Guys, clearly I'm a dog gal, okay? I had cats when I was like younger and I know, why am I making it sound like I don't know how to own a cat? I've had a cat before, but I've only had house cats where you have to train them to use the litter box. If I poured random piles of litter outside, are stray cats gonna go and do that? Is this the dumbest? This might be one of the dumbest questions I've ever asked, but I'm just wondering if they're street cats, they're just pissed, they're doing their thing anyway, anywhere. Like they're not trained on litter if they're street cats. So would they be like, does it have a special scent that calls them that way? All right, guys. That was some petty revenge on some bosses. Speaking of bosses, this boss is getting out of here. Imagine I was actually like that. That's so annoying. I'm out of here. Stay classy out there. Stay sassy, and I'll see you tomorrow.